Sig coming in at the top of the interview. Today on the show we have Keith Kenny. Keith Kenny is a singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist out of New Jersey. He does a solo show in which one guy plays guitar, sings, drums with multiple drums. So he's a one-man band, and it's really, really cool to see. I recommend checking out his YouTube and diving into some videos he's got there because you really get to see the talent this guy has. Keith has an album coming out, and it's either came out by now or it's about to come out. It's called A Lifetime Ago Motel. It was recorded over a few years and then really put together over the pandemic. And it's a really cool batch of songs. We're going to hear one of them here in a little bit. Another really badass thing about this album is Sim Kane from the Rollins Band and the Dean Ween Group plays a couple of tunes on it. And we get into the story behind how that happens and how Keith met Sim. But before that, here's the tune. Here's Moonchild off A Lifetime Ago Motel.
Dance for me and show me where to be. If the stars fell from the sky, I'd follow them until I die. Moonchild, dance for me. Moonchild, tall and fair, can you walk on air or float above the sea? Show me where to be. Moonchild, dance for me. I came to say hello, but I found you had to go. And you showed me how to live, but I wish I could forgive. Moonchild, dance for me. Moonchild, dance for me. Moonchild, dance for me and show me where to be. Moonchild, dance for me. Moonchild, dance for me.
Moonchild by Keith Kenny off the album A Lifetime Ago Motel. Before we get any further, this podcast is mixed by Studio 44 CLE. Studio 44 CLE. If you have any audio needs, visual needs, streaming needs, make sure you reach out to Studio 44 CLE. Our man Jay will hook you up and make your stuff sound great. Also, if you can like, subscribe, rate, review the podcast and any of the podcast platforms, including such as Apple. If we get some more Apple likes or comments, that's going to help us out a lot. It helps me keep talking to cool people and sharing those insights with you. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the interview. Here is Keith Kenny. Hello?
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Keith, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Awesome. You good to roll?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So we'll jump right into it. How have you been?
I've been good. I've been excited to get this new album out, and also kind of, it's just in the midst of the quarantine, trying to figure things out.
I feel it. I definitely relate to it. It's been, I don't know, it's kind of cool and kind of awful I imagine for someone like you, you're kind of a road dog. Like you tour constantly, so this has to be like a huge mind fuck.
It really, it's pretty bad. I was kind of thinking about it today. It's one of those things that kind of comes in waves for me.
Yeah.
Like I'll have a day where I'm excited that, I don't have to do the road thing right now, and that's great. And then other days it's just like, man, this sucks. I can't be on the road even if I wanted to. And it's one of those things that when you do it all the time, it does kind of become a job in a way.
Right.
But at the same time, it becomes something that, these are adventures that's what it's all about. And so I'm definitely missing that right now.
I can relate to that. I had like one gig in Chardon, Ohio, which is an hour away from Cleveland, and it was like, oh, I was like, oh, this is like driving out to New York or Jersey or something, like on the road again. Yes. And then it's just like,
right.
And I wasn't even playing. I was just streaming a thing for a friend. And like, I don't know. It's weird because when you're living that nomadic, like hustling lifestyle, it does, I'd imagine you have to have a certain mindset to be able to endure that, because it is nothing but work. And someone like you, who, sorry to cut you off, but someone like you, it's all on you. The performance, you're probably doing the merch, you're doing the booking. You're the one man do it all thing. That gets to be extremely exhausting.
It definitely does. I definitely got used to it over a few years, and it got into a little bit of a rhythm where you had finally kind of opened a few doors that you knew were going to be open the next time you came through. And Cleveland was actually one of the really good ones, because I had some really, really good gigs in Cleveland.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing was opening for the Dean Ween Group there opened a huge door, because that was at the Beachland Ballroom.
Nice.
And that was just like, that was one of those like dream come true moments as an artist, to just be supporting a band you really admire, and then getting in front of an audience that resonated with what you do. So that was just huge. And then like after that, it was kind of like a follow-up to see, I mean, obviously I'm not going to be able to go and just play the Beachland Ballroom now as a solo act, as an opener, but I was able to play this place called Coda, which was kind of a newer venue
in Tremont with Micah.
Yeah. And man, that place is awesome.
Right.
And I feel bad for them right now, because I don't know what's going on with what they're doing. If I'm sure they probably can't have shows.
Yeah.
So, but we did a bunch of follow-up shows there, and they all went really well.
That's awesome.
So Cleveland was like, it was always one of my favorite places to go. I mean, shows are always a blast there.
Well, yeah, I was looking into it. I'm like, I saw my buddy Micah, you guys played, that was like 2018, I think. So was that the same year as the Dean Ween at the Beachland?
Yeah, that was probably the first follow-up show.
Gotcha.
Yeah, with Micah. Yeah, he was awesome too.
Yeah, he's a super cool guy. I think he just got a band together, and he does that whole like Les Claypool slappy singer-songwriter thing. Like, so you two on the bill, I was like, oh, that's a sick bill. Like,
yeah, that was fun.
But that's awesome. I didn't realize Cleveland was one of the first nights with the Dean Ween. Like,
because the first tour we did was, I think, Indianapolis, Detroit, and then Cleveland. And Cleveland was without a doubt the highlight of that first part of the run.
Sick.
And it was just like, oh, we're in Cleveland now, man. It was
yeah,
an obvious reason of why they say Cleveland rocks. It was killer.
That's awesome. Yeah, the Coda, that kind of touch on it. I ran into the sound guy last night. I did I've been doing a week of streamed shows to get, so I do music.
Was that Dan?
Huh? Yes, Dan.
Dan, yeah.
He's gonna be so stoked. He cut his hair and his beard so he looks completely different, right? And like,
nice.
Yeah, at first I'm like, is that Dan? Like, I introduced myself as, I'm like, hey, I'm Dave. He's like, I know, I'm Dan. I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah, he's probably getting that a lot now.
Yeah, especially because that was kind of his thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
But Coda's been like shut down. They've done some streamy things, but like They're not doing anything
Yeah.
at the moment. They're planning to do some things in the next couple months. So
That's good.
right? And like during the initial shutdown, they used their parking lot. You know how the parking lot's right on the side of it for the
Yeah.
fancy restaurant above the Coda. And for anyone who's listening, the Coda is like this sick, almost like your dad's basement, but in
Yeah.
a venue. You know what I mean? Like the back walls
Exactly.
coated with all these sick, like classic rock bands, and like it's just a super cool vibe. And like the people just come there, even if like they don't know who's playing. People just come in there and hang out. It's a really good natural
Yeah.
draw for touring acts, and just like anyone that's supporting there is like you've said, like you experienced. It's a good time. But they were doing things out in the parking lot, and they had like this crazy cool like platform stage. It was rad.
Oh, nice. They got to do some outdoor stuff. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Now it's completely different, and the Beachland has been streaming the whole time. They've been doing stuff nonstop, and then they did the whole distance shows and stopped in November, and I think they're picking it
Right.
up in a month.
Yeah, I think I'm just starting to get, it's end of January now, and my last like real performance was November. We had an outdoor thing here in Jersey, and that was awesome.
We're at
And it was just at a brewery called Red Silo Brew Works or something, and it was awesome, man, because like it happened to be like one of the really last nice days here in November, so people were excited to just be outside because it was unseasonably warm, and then I got to play a couple sets, and it's kind of like a little bit of a release, and then I kind of knew like, oh man, it's going to be a while before you get that real energy of the actual thing. Live streaming just doesn't cut it. It's a different kind of stressful, and it doesn't quite have the reciprocation, like with comments and emojis that they don't fucking work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. It's a different kind of stress because, like, now you are the digital sound man, and your audience is now hired hands. Can you hear this? Can you know what I mean? Like,
right.
And before, so to get going, it takes like 20 minutes of the thing, and by that time, it's like busking in a weird digital way, where like people are
scrolling by,
right, and you got to catch their attention right quick if they're going to hang out.
Exactly.
And like, but you've done really good with that. You've raised enough money to get those red vinyls, which is going to be sick.
Oh, thanks for checking that out. I have been lucky with, just over the years. I've noticed, especially as like a DIY artist,
right?
You don't get this massive success that everybody like thinks right off the top of their head.
Yeah.
It's more like you'll meet one or two people, maybe in a couple different cities, that really get inspired by your work or like really dig what you do. And for some reason, that person wants to support you and they want to see you keep doing it. It's very different than I think the model that most artists want to get to, which is just, I have tens of thousands of fans and they're all giving me $20 for the album. You actually find like, okay, well, maybe I don't have thousands of fans, but there might be like 100, but the fact that all of them will at least chip in to make sure that a record comes out is huge. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. I try to just be grateful for that every day, because it's easy to compare yourself to any other artist who's as it's obviously they're, making more sales and stuff like that. But, you kind of are grateful for those that you did connect with.
Definitely. I can see like, well, it's when you're in the mindset of doing the music as the business, when you take it on full time, like you have, you kind of gauge that success or that, what you should be doing off those bigger acts, but it's almost like not accepting, but appreciating what actually is happening. And like you and what you do is so inspiring because it's all you, and like you're taking everything on, and you're going to meet people who are in that same situation and doing the same thing, and knowing that you can do it, that fuels them, and they want that $20 means way more that it went to you directly than to someone who has a bigger platform and who may have like, millions of followers and gets $20 from them. But a homie from Cleveland gave $20 to you personally.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's way more moving for them and for you. Like, that's badass.
Well, I think like kind of what you're saying is you can feel the direct support from
Right.
the actual fan, as opposed to once you get, I think, to a certain level, you get signed to a major label deal or, some big break happens for you.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, you got a manager who's getting the 20%, you got your agent who's taking another 20%, and then all the other people you got to pay to get,
press,
there's so many moving parts that it starts to get a little watered down, and that fan is still supporting you, but that money's getting cut up, and it's not like a direct sale.
Yeah.
So there's something special about this like early level of just kind of trying to appreciate, like, man, that guy threw in $50 so that I can have a red vinyl. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Definitely.
And so I was really surprised that we met the goal because of the timing felt awful because I had been working on this record for so long, and it was always like in the background because I had been touring and recording some other bands and just gigging, and you're just like on this constant treadmill.
Right.
So then the quarantine happened, and I'm still kind of putting the final touches on this thing, but it's like, well, do I release it now? Because I don't know how I can afford it, because
right.
I can't go out and tour on it, and I can't do a release show, which is usually a pretty good means of making some of the money back for some of the expenses.
Right.
And so I sat on it for a while, and then finally I was just like, you know what, I'll just throw it out there and see what happens, and not take it too seriously if it doesn't go, because people are having really tough times right now.
Definitely.
And some people are killing it. I mean, some people are working harder than they've ever worked before because of the circumstances. So I just threw it out there, and luckily it made it. So I was able to put that deposit down for the vinyl. And actually, it was like a perfect timing for the interview because the test pressing came last night.
Yeah.
I got my first listen to the actual test pressing of the vinyl.
How is it?
So
is it sick?
you know what, it's hard for me to tell right now because I don't know if my turntable is playing things a little fast.
Right.
But for me right now, the tempos are fast, and I'm actually noticing a little bit of a pitch change. So I got to get it on a couple different turntables. I don't have the best turntable out there. It's
Gotcha.
a pretty kind of cheap knockoff model that's been used for a while now. So it could have some kind of a speed issue.
Oh my God.
But
That's like
I got to check it out.
that's like such another level of mix worry. You know what I mean? You get your mix, then you get your master, and you're like, well, do I listen to it in the car, the headphones? Well, in the car, it sounds like, you know what I mean? Like now on the janky vinyl player, like on the record player,
exactly.
like who do I know that has a good one? Oh, they don't want to hang out. They wouldn't want to listen to my stuff. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. That's exciting that you made it. Like, that's so cool. And the fact that you got it, like that, is this the first like vinyl you've done like this?
This is the second.
Okay, because vinyl's big as far as money wise.
It's expensive as hell,
Right.
and it takes a while to get your expenses back on it. That was the huge relief with the fundraiser, because I don't think I would have done it otherwise. But I did get to press the last record to vinyl, and that was kind of a similar situation where I had done a crowdfunding thing. But I had spent way more money on production last time because I had worked with a really good producer named Justin Gwip, who's up near Woodstock, New York.
Yeah.
And it was just such a, like, he opened my world up as far as like what the studio is capable of and what you can do with just some very basic recorded tracks. And it was such an honor to work with him, but it was costly too. So It was just trying to get that money back for the time that we had spent. So we were able to do that, and then as a bonus, I figured like if we could raise the money, I gotta press this to vinyl with all the work that went into it. So I went ahead and did it, and it was really awesome. So this is the second go, and I'm equally as excited because this one was a little more of a independent adventure.
So what did he show you can do with tracks that you didn't see before?
Well, I kind of learned on so many different mediums as a kid because I started recording when I was like 12 or 13 on like a 4-track, a cassette,
Right, so did I. Like, you had to buy the tapes, right? And
you buy the tapes, and I don't know what did you have? I had a Tascam Porto 2, the cheapest one you could get, pretty much.
Yeah, I had a Tascam. I can't remember the numbers. It was silver, and it had like 4 sliders and 4 gain. It was pretty.
So that's nice. Like you had a nicer piece than I did. Mine, I think, only had 2. It was like a stereo.
Okay.
So it was only 2 tracks, and it was so hard to record on because you would put down 1 track, and that was fine. But then when you try to overdub, something really weird would happen where the overdub would be doubly loud as what you were recording over. Right. And I also had no idea what I was doing because I was like 14, right. So I'm just plugging stuff in, and you makes a sound, you see the fader go up, you're like, I'm good. And then after that, I got like one of those kind of digital all-in-one recording stations.
Oh, okay. Like a Tascam thing?
Yeah, well, I went to a Korg. It was a Korg D1600. Okay. And that was like a 16-track digital recorder that would record at like 44.1, 16-bit. Like it was CD quality.
Nice. And
you could burn a CD right out of it.
What?
Yeah, like it was a 2X burner, like built in.
Yeah. No shit.
And
that's fancy. Oh no.
Yeah, it was fancy, right? And so that was like what I recorded my first like proper album on. Goes like way back to 2008.
Yeah.
And so I kind of learned in all these different mediums because eventually like Pro Tools became the kind of standard, or Logic, or whatever like DAW people are using now, right? I was kind of like riding the wave where, well, I have this D1600, so let me get as far as I can with that until I have to buy Pro Tools, right?
Right.
So I'm like working in this digital box, and it was really hard to mix on because once your tracks are in there, there was like reverb and stuff you could put on it, but it was very limited. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can only have a certain number of effects on each track, and then there was like mastering tracks. But I honestly didn't like understand the whole picture back then. I was kind of learning as I went. So when I went and got my first album mastered, I learned just a lot about like the type of resolution and how to get your tracks properly to the mastering guy and all that stuff.
Yeah, just transferring the files is a learning curve itself.
Exactly. Like okay. It might sound really basic right now, and I'm probably dating myself, but it's like, yeah, that was a big deal back then. It's like, just how do I get these tracks to him the way he wants them?
Right.
And so then I went, and that was like one of those like aha moments where I sat in with on the mastering session, which was, it's kind of rare. A lot of times mastering guys just want you to send them the tracks, and they do their thing and they send them back. But this guy was cool. It's like, it was a little extra money, but I sat there with him for like 10 hours and we mastered the thing. And that was great because I got to kind of see what that process was like. And it was so eye-opening and cool. And I know I'm giving a really long explanation.
No, this is
your question.
Like it is it's a process. Like for me that when I was learning about I play in a band called C Level, letter C dash. And
I did check out a little bit of like the podcast and some of your stuff. So I'm excited to be on. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Well, I appreciate you checking that out. Not too many people do, but put a pin in that because like it relates to some other questions I have later. But learning, like I work with this guy out of Solon, and like he like does a really good job of explaining all this. Like I'm a guitar guy. I don't know you know, what I mean, I'm open to learning everything, like,
Right.
because you need to do that. Like, I look at people like you who are hustling and doing it, like he's doing it all himself. That goes back to the inspiration thing, and like that's why people are so moved. I imagine, like, well, at least I should talk about myself. That's why seeing people like you and hearing people like you do what you do is so inspiring. Because you know what? If everyone else bails, I can still do it. Because look at, you know what I mean? But so that whole process, it's really confusing because you don't think much of a remaster like as just an average listener. You're like, it's still the Beatles. It still sounds cool. But like that whole process of what has to be remastered and what it's playing through, and the idea like that, seeing someone do that, taking that final mix and doing those minor tweaks so it sounds cool in a car and on a phone is a big deal. And
it is
all like minute little things that I don't know, to sit in with like a real deal dude to show you how to do that for 10 hours is exhausting. And like, it's probably really hard to get yourself out of what he's listening to. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you hear your performance and hear you, and to kind of step back and be like, well, he's listening to these frequencies and not necessarily like, I don't know. So that sounds badass that you got this experience to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, like like I was saying with the first record on kind of in a real old school format, I just took my tracks to, you know, get it mastered. But that was, you know, I didn't learn all that much about like the mixing process and editing.
Right.
So then I had kind of advanced into Pro Tools, and that was another huge learning curve. Like I had just like getting my shit set up was a nightmare, you know, like getting the computer right. And when I was doing it, like a lot of this stuff wasn't as easy as plug and play. I think now when you buy the computer and a lot of it, you just plug it in and it works and it's amazing. But I had some serious, like, you know, you had to do all these little tweaks to your system to make sure that like your interface was talking to your computer the right way, and it's gotten a lot easier, I think, and way more accessible for people, which is great. But once I finally got my stuff working, then there were all these like plugins and just different ways to record the tracks that I was learning all as I went. So when I brought my tracks up to Justin in New York, I was like burnt out on them. I had heard them. I heard these little mistakes that were there, but the take was really good. And he heard it and was like, no, this is good. We can work with this. I'm like, really? Because I am like, I can't do anything else with it. And he was able to show me little like editing tricks. Yeah. Just a way to, you know, make, you know, kick drum sound huge and things like that. And it transformed the whole recording to a point where it's like, oh, well, now we can add stuff on top of this and this will be sick. But really, he showed me how to edit stuff in a way that was really efficient. How to record with playlists. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I wasn't familiar at all. But it's basically just like a way of comping where you can, you know, record a vocal track, let's say, and you record it 5 times, but you can pick the best 5 spots. You know? Nice. They call it either comping or working with a playlist in Pro Tools.
Okay. I wasn't familiar with the term, but with the process,
Right. Little tricks like that, which I knew were out there, and I guess I felt like kind of I think I had kind of that Kurt Cobain attitude of like, I want to keep my music pure. Right. And I want the take to be the take. But at the same time, there's been so many amazing records that are put out that are done in a little more of like a forensic kind of really pieced together way. And so that made me look at it a little differently. Like, all right, well, this is just how it's done in certain situations. Like, it's okay to really dial in and look at your vocal performance, or really look at, is that kick drum on time? Certain things like that. And then just finding out like, okay, I didn't record this to a click and maybe there are some imperfections, but at least it doesn't feel like it's changing in time.
Yeah, no, that's a big one. I think with it's weird because the medium which we consume music is much more digital, and
Yeah.
like I'm not sure how old you are, but when I grew up, grunge music was the thing. You know what I mean? Like at
Yeah.
least with the generation of my high schoolers, like the rock that still rocked was like Nirvana and on, and like
Definitely.
Red Hot Chili Peppers and Sublime. That was like the nugget of stuff, and all that was like just like you said, the take is the take. This is raw as fuck.
Yeah.
But it's with like how music's put out now. It's almost like that. It's taking the step to take a more digital approach and a more so music is just so perfect now. Everything can
Yeah.
be quantized, everything can be
Yeah.
auto-tuned, and like if you don't do that, like you don't get in that weird realm of being accepted because like, oh, that sounds weird. You know what I mean? Like and so there's a balance of finding that like digital like support and authenticity, which is what's
Yeah.
tricky.
Yeah.
And like yeah, so I agree with everything you just said. Like having to
Well,
learn to accept that was a big deal.
I had done some records where I was just like, all right, you know what? This is the take. I'm
Right.
going to go in the studio, set up my rig, play, and do 2 overdubs, and then I'm done.
Right.
And I put out an album like that, and I'm happy that I did that. But then I also will look back. I'm like, man, that song was solid,
Right.
and I can think about it now. Like if I had kind of taken the time to call that a demo and then really try to produce it, I might have came out with something a little like more accessible to a wider audience, but you never know. So I don't know. I always think it's kind of worth the shot to give the song the best shot that it's
Yeah.
got.
Yeah. Well put.
But it can be tricky because no matter what, you've already heard it too many times, and you start to hate it a little bit. You're like, man, this song again.
Like, I don't even like it anymore. You get the tunnel
Right.
vision. You don't see. You're looking at the tree and not the forest. Yeah.
Yeah. And the big thing for me is like, I appreciate you kind of saying like, you're doing it on your own, but the truth is, I'm not. I always have like some musical friends come
Right.
by,
Yeah.
and they kind of bring the sanity back where, you show them the track and they go, yeah, that's awesome. But what if you did this, just little ideas here and there. And it kind of helps steer the ship a little bit because you do get tunnel vision, like you said,
Yeah.
where you just can't, you got to take a break from it.
And it's I didn't 100% think it was all solo dolo. I assume you're working with like somebody somehow somewhere. I mean, I was just more looking at your road aesthetic. When you're out there playing and touring, it's one guy doing it all. Hopefully with a homie there to help sling merch or whatever. But and you need that to bounce off of. Like you can't develop community by yourself.
No, absolutely.
So that's good. I'm glad you got a support team of like, dude, it's good. No, don't put the tambourine on it. It's fine.
yeah. The tambourine sucks, dude. Get it out of there.
Side note: tambourines and shakers are hard as fuck to add because 16th notes with the shaker. Come on.
I know, right?
But let's kind of sidestep back. What got a guitar into your hands? Like you grew up in Monroe Township, right, New Jersey.
Yep. Central Jersey, baby.
So what put a guitar under those fingers? What brought that? What brought music into your life?
Well, that was really my dad. He was he picked it up later in his life. He was probably like 26 when he started playing, and he just learned a few chords and was able to get around and kind of improvise lyrics over a few chords. And he had his like own little repertoire of songs that he had written, and that definitely gave me inspiration to become a songwriter.
Yeah. What kind
Early
of stuff,
on.
music-wise, what was floating around? Like Neil Young, Metallica? Like what kind of stuff was your dad into?
My dad, well, it's weird. My house wasn't, it was musical in certain ways, but it wasn't like there was always music on. But I do remember the first really like huge moment was, this is like probably 94, was Green Day Dookie.
Nice.
Was the cassette tape that I had. And that was like probably my first cassette that, you got the Walkman and just you can see this album artwork and just become obsessed.
Right.
And I think I was
like, what's
10 at the time, and just overly obsessed. And also Aerosmith, Get a Grip, which
Right.
was in like Wayne's World 2 and all that. And
Aerosmith had some bangers.
oh my God. I mean, who does it like Aerosmith, man? They're beasts.
Someone who's only heard like from what album had Pink on, like
Yeah, right.
Even though that album's got some catchy tunes, Pink's fucking catchy. Like
I know,
as goofy as it is.
They know how to put the hits out
for sure.
So those two cassette tapes were game changers in kind of music, and also AC/DC Money Talks. I had this single cassette.
Too. Okay, nice.
Man, like these songs were, just in my headphones, I was just taken to another planet. And it kind of then became the obsession of like, whoa, this is amazing.
Right.
This music stuff is crazy. And then the guitar was, so watching my dad play acoustic was definitely inspiring, but not to the point where it's like, I got to do that. But seeing like Green Day or whatever throw mud at people at Woodstock 94.
Yeah.
And then it turned out that my uncle had an electric guitar that was actually my dad's, but he had it was over at his house for some reason. And on my 11th birthday, that came over as like, I guess part of the birthday gift. And it was an electric guitar. And it was like, whoa, that's
real deal.
What those guys are using, man. Like, this is the real thing. And I was obsessed with it that night. I remember like I could not have my fingers on the fretboard. So it became a bit of an obsession there.
What was the first thing you figured out?
It was all chords for me. My dad just showed me chords. It was like, just D, A, G, a little C in there.
Oh boy. Okay. Almost that F chord.
Eventually get to the F, and the bar chords. And I definitely remember the one night of like really torturing myself with bar chords and almost getting to the point of tears, of just being like so upset that you couldn't get it,
Right.
And then the next day it was like something had happened where I was able to do it a little better. And I was like, holy shit, like I could do it.
But man, that spike, right? That little that spike that you have accomplished something. And like it's cool because when you find a music thing, you can really track progression. And like as musicians, I feel we luck out with that. Like we find the little thing, and you're like, "Oh, I can now play Donna Lee," or "Oh, I know these chord changes." Like, you get this like dopamine rush from like figuring out little things that keeps you going. That it sucks for people who don't know what that is for themselves. But okay, I digress. So it was chords. Figuring out these bar chords, and then what?
So then another big moment was, so I didn't really understand that people could play anything they wanted to, I just didn't understand that because I'd only seen my dad play chords.
Right.
And he wasn't necessarily like a guy that learned songs. I mean, he knew like a couple chords of like a Neil Young tune, and that was cool and all, but I didn't really understand that like guys just like learn stuff on the radio or whatever. And then one day, for some reason in school, it was like, I think I was in 7th grade, and we went, and they called it like the school Olympics, where you just went to the gym and there were like all these stations of like different things. And one 8th grader had a guitar and he was playing Metallica songs. And I was just like, you can do that? Like, it sounds silly, but I mean, I just didn't realize that was even a possibility. And just seeing it, I was like, I have to try that. So I went and bought a Metallica book and started figuring that. And then it just became a complete metalhead for all of my high school years. It's like all of this old school Metallica, Pantera, Slayer, and Dream Theater was in there. All the heavy stuff. And that's when it was really like, you get into the technical stuff,
Right.
guitar solos, Floyd Rose Bridge, like all that, just killer, like
Yeah.
dive bombs, like Dimebag Darrell. Luckily got to see those guys before they split up,
No
and then
shit.
all the tragedy that happened
Yeah.
afterwards.
That's sick.
Man, it was just, that was when it was really like, there is nothing else I want to do with my life than just be a musician.
And I imagine that was like high school, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
all high school.
Because like with listening to like a Teenage Dream, like you can hear like the metal come
Yeah.
out, which is so
Yeah.
sick. And you got this pickup rig, and you got the whatever going with the acoustic guitar, where you're just like, it's there, and like just the riffage, the song structure of that, and then when you go to the solo bits, like that's like I'm like, this guy has to thrash. It has to be somewhere in his
Yeah.
history, and
That's where it is. Yeah.
that's awesome. So okay, now at this time, were you trying to play with other people too? Were you trying to do the band bit?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
of course. Like, I never wanted to be a one-man band. I never wanted to do necessarily like a solo show.
Right. No one would, because it's way more work. Why not
Yeah,
have a
it's so
homie
much-
there to help you out? Like,
Exactly. So of course, like in high school, you find a few other guys that are playing and different instruments, drums, bass. I mean, obviously I was trying to at least get a trio together. So
yeah.
drums and bass were kind of key. And then there's always like this thing of, well, who's going to sing?
Right.
And I was not much of a singer back then and didn't really want to sing because I was really just more of like a obsessive guitar player.
Right.
But by necessity, it's just like, man, like nobody really wants to sing. And if they do, like they weren't too serious about it. And you just kind of do it because it needs to be done.
100%.
And then eventually like, I'm a singer now, and so I had formed a few bands, and then I joined a metal band after high school. They were called POW.
Okay.
And that kind of started the playing out and gigging, and I thought it was really cool because they were a little more established on anything I had done. Like I'd always tried to kind of get it together, but never quite found the right guys to be, because you have to have some kind of level of seriousness to at least say, hey, we're going to do a gig. We're going to practice, rehearse, and like have our shit together by this day, and then and play.
Right. And that's hard
play for these people.
It's hard to convince a bunch of people who are like, wait, we're going to make no money and we're going to put all this work into this thing, and there might not be anyone there. I don't know if I like the idea of this. You got to be a certain
in
level
high
of
school,
into it.
I don't even think we were thinking about money yet.
Right.
But you were just thinking like, oh, well, how are we going to at least get just people together to do it?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was always tricky. And then joining the metal band in POW was like, okay, cool. We were gigging out, and I was like the lead guitar player, so I didn't have to deal with singing or anything. I was like, it was cool.
Nice.
But at that point, I had kind of gotten into some other styles of music that were really starting to influence me in more of like a profound way than metal. I think I was just becoming, into some more like the classic rock mixed with Michael Hedges. I don't know if you've heard of that guitar player, but his stuff like just changed me 100% because he had that ability to play as a solo performer, and his compositions were so advanced, and like these alternate tunings he was using in this like percussive style. It was like, man, I mean, that guy's doing it all by himself. And the fact that a few bands had like fizzled out, I was just still playing and kind of trying to put music out and stuff like that. It started to feel like kind of a path that might just be necessary in the future if I really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So that had kind of altered my style a little bit. So I eventually left the band and then tried to start doing my own thing.
Now, were you at that point where you're hitting any? When you were doing your own thing, did you jump right to acoustic, or were you looping stuff with electric? When was like that move? Was it Michael Hedges' influence and writing some stuff like that?
Mostly, once I found out about Michael Hedges, I became really obsessed with the acoustic guitar because of his pickup system
Okay.
and the way he was able to make that guitar sound.
Right. What kind of pickup
was just-
system is he using? Is it a
So
Fishman or
he-
is it a
Well, he died tragically in like the 90s, so I never got to see him live, but
right?
I had done a lot of research on him and his rig and all his songs and stuff. And back then, these pickups were called a frap, and they didn't make them anymore. By the time I was able to, get enough money together to buy something,
Yeah.
but he used a mix of a frap and a Sunrise pickup, which is a pretty popular pickup amongst like professional musicians. It's a sound hole pickup that's magnetic, so it's kind of like an electric guitar pickup, but for an
Gotcha.
acoustic guitar. But this frap pickup that he used was now kind of made by another company or a similar model, and they're called Trance Audio,
Okay.
and they make this system called the Amulet, and it goes in the guitar, but it's like a 3D piezo kind of pickup,
Okay.
and so it's able to not just pick up the surface of the guitar, but also some more like the resonations that are happening around the whole
Right.
body of the guitar. So I got those and installed them into my like cheaper Martin model that I have. It's like a DX1. It's not all.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Those
not
are
all-
cool.
They're
except
cool.
for
It's just a spruce top, and they
Right.
have like a what do they call it? Like a
compressed wood
it's not
or
all.
whatever.
It's not natural wood
Yeah.
body. It's like carbon fiber or whatever.
Carbon
they
fiber.
call it.
There we go.
I don't know what it is, but so I once I got those pickups in that guitar, it was so cool to be able to blend those pickups together and mess with distortion going
Yeah.
through the magnetic, and then having still the clean tone, and then you had this like percussive thing going on. It was like, oh man, and then the looping kind of was perfect for
Yeah.
that world.
Opened up the door because now this instrument is not just strings and fingers,
Yeah.
frets. Now that's the whole body is the thing, and like
Yeah.
good call with using that Martin, because that one, if it messed up, like at least you didn't mess up
Yes.
the good Martin. Like,
Exactly.
not that those aren't good. I don't know. They work.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love the one I have, but it's so beat to hell right now
Right.
because it did become the Road Warrior. So it needs some work, but I love that guitar so much just because of like the history I have with it.
Yeah. So when you like get this thing together, are you hitting mic nights trying to figure it out?
Definitely, man. The hardest thing to figure out was how to book a goddamn gig. It
Right.
was a nightmare. Like,
Did you ever play Espresso Joe's?
no, but I heard of it.
Okay. I'm trying to think of the other ones I know about by you. There was some. I just talked to Avery Mandeville from the
Okay.
band Little Hag.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with her?
I am definitely, I've heard the name. I don't think we've ever met.
Okay, yeah, she's cool as fuck, and she used to do Espresso Joe's, and there was some other mic
Yeah,
nights
I
can't
remember that one being there. There was this one in New Brunswick called Cafe 52,
Okay,
and that
New
was really
Brunswick.
cool.
interesting
Yeah.
place, man. Sorry, not to cut you off, but that okay.
No.
So kind of expand upon that. Was that like when you were trying to get
Yes,
this looping
that was
thing
just,
together?
Like, you're trying to get a gig, and Cafe 52 had this open mic, and so you go do like a couple songs there, but then they freaking burnt down. Of course, it's like, damn it, this one place I had burnt down. Then there was, oh man, so many shitty open mics, some really
Right.
bad ones.
But
Yeah,
that's when
you
you
sit
meet the
through them and you
homies.
just you just like, oh man, they were rough. They were rough.
I feel it. You
but-
ended up getting your first gig at the Stone Pony, right?
Yeah, that was
How'd that-
like a Super Tuesday. They called
Super
it.
Tuesday, sick. Made it in. What up?
It was
No
it was
longer
like-
Monday.
right. It was all local bands.
Cool.
And there was a catch with that though. Like you pretty much had to sell tickets.
Oh
so
no.
it was pay to play.
Yeah.
And I was like really ambitious at the time, and they gave you 50, and if you sold 50, you were definitely going to be welcome back.
Damn.
So
yeah, that's
I would
super
like,
ambitious for a Tuesday.
oh man, I would like hustle around town. I'd be calling everybody and texting friends and just like, yo, will you buy a ticket for $10 and come to this show? And I was young. I was only like
Yeah.
in my early 20s, and people wanted to go out, and I had a good family. Like half of my family would go.
Sick.
and they were cool and they liked the party. So like
Yeah.
they would come out and the bar would make money, you know. And then, you know, you realize that you could do that for a while, but eventually, you know, your friends and family are going to
Get worn
stop
out.
coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because I eventually, it was like every 2 weeks, you know, you'd be playing the Pony and trying to sell 50 tickets again. And it was a grind, man, because
Right.
as soon as you stopped selling those tickets, they didn't want you to play anymore.
Which is, it was always on Tuesday?
No.
Okay,
So the
good.
first one was on Tuesday,
Good.
but if you did really well on the Tuesday, you could get in as like an opener on like a weekend night.
Okay, cool.
So
Well,
then there was a cool scene there. The Asbury Park was really in rough shape back then.
Yeah.
It was like the venues were struggling. There was like tourism was down. Like a lot of it was really beat up. But like the last, I'd say 5 to 10 years, it's really picked up. I mean, they've done amazing like renovations and it's really hopping now. So in the summer, it's mobbed. But back then it was different. But so you kind of had to like bring people to Asbury
Yeah.
Park. Now there's a little more of a walk-in thing going on.
that's cool.
So yeah, but it was basically like, hey man, if you could keep this going and sell your tickets and you get on the bill with some like a little more established bands, and that was kind of the first way of getting out there a little bit
Yeah.
more.
And did you jump from that to like DIY stuff afterwards, after the burn of trying to get people to buy tickets to see you? You know, the burn of the homies, burning the homies.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, dude, I know you're playing, but
Yeah,
I want to sleep or whatever.
I was just more concerned about always having gigs. I wanted to play different
okay.
places.
I feel
And
that.
I guess in retrospect, it might not have been the smartest move because like the Pony is pretty much the best place you can play in Asbury Park.
Right.
It's the biggest stage. It's, you know, it's the most people, but I also wanted to like understand these smaller and intimate venues at the time. And there was a venue called the Saint, which only held 100 people.
Yeah.
And eventually like had a really good relationship with them and did my like album release show there. And that was just a cool place. Cause I mean, if you can cram 100 people in, you're having a rock show.
Yeah. No, you're having
You know,
an
and
insane
it was-
time.
Yeah. And so for the first album release show, we did it at the Saint, and we were able to like, you know, sell the 100 tickets, and it was just like a sold out show, you know, and it was amazing.
Right.
But at the Pony, that would have felt like more than half empty.
Right.
And I wouldn't have been able to fill it back then. So it's like having those like different kinds of relationships was important to me because I didn't want to just play the Pony. And
Yeah.
so I kind of ventured out, and then I started doing just bar gigs too, where you just play for 3-4 hours and
So-
kind of build your chops up that way.
Which is
by having
sorry,
Yeah.
it's a whole nother mindset, right? When you were doing the Pony, like I imagine you were doing your own stuff. And were you doing the foot drumming as well? Did you have the kick suitcase and the hi-hat going yet, or like when did that
all
come
kind
in?
of like evolved real slowly.
Okay, I'd imagine because it's skill, the build up.
It all started with like, all right, well, I got this guitar that is kind of percussive, and then
Right.
The loop pedals and a few pedals. And then eventually it was like I had like different variations of it. I had a kind of like a kickboard where it was like a piezo pickup on like a piece of plywood. That was like kind of the kick for a while. And then I kind of adapted to this suitcase thing that would just hold my pedals too at the same time. And then it was also the kick drum, you know, so it's like multi-purpose. And then I tried to just keep incorporating little bits and bit more. Than I threw the hi-hat in there and just kind of kept trying to expand it as I was able to.
That's sick. Was it so at that point when you did your first CD release, was that put together around then, or was it not?
No.
Not yet? Okay.
At that time, I was still playing with a band, and I was doing like half band, half solo.
Okay.
So I would like open the show as a solo act and do a few loop tunes and like a few more like acoustic style singer-songwriter type songs. And then there were some songs that were really cool to play with the band. So I had a trio back then, and Tyler Kiera and John Luberecki were on bass and drums, and it was awesome. You know, we had a record out, and we were getting on some little festivals that were around at the time, and kind of just trying to, like, you know, make a little bit of a name for ourselves so that we can get out there. But ultimately, I think it was like during one of those times where college is happening and people's lives are starting to go in different directions, and there's different circles of friends. And so ultimately we kind of like fizzled out, and it was a little heartbreaking at the time, because I always wanted to have a band, like just 3 guys or two or 3 guys you always count on, and just go at it as like a team, you know?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like I took a step back, and obviously you keep playing music because it's just what you do, but you just kind of take a moment to like reassess, and then, all right, well, this didn't work out, so let me try something else. And I did really want to get the band thing going. Like that was still kind of my motivation back then.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's a lot. I don't know. Us versus the world's a lot more appealing than me versus the world. Like,
right.
And so, like, in it, I don't know. It's interesting that these moments of reflection. It seems that happens to you quite often, but which is a good thing.
It does, man.
You really need to have that. You need to be able to assess and be in that moment and move on,
right.
or figure out how to progress. And like, so like, when did stuff like after the band shut down or the band departure, you keep going, right? And at this point, are you touring? What like?
No,
when do you become a road dog?
I was moonlighting as a artist, right?
Gotcha.
So I was working during the day.
Okay.
Gigging weekends, sometimes weeknights.
What was the day job?
I went to college for construction engineering, so I was
nice.
I was just like on construction sites most of the day.
Fuck. Okay. So
and then I would just come home. We would jam. Then like Friday, Saturday gig out. Sometimes I'd find a spot that would have like a weeknight kind of open jam, or like there was this place called the Stanhope House up in North Jersey where like they'd have gigs on Tuesday, Wednesday. I'd go up there and do sometimes a solo set. You know, I was just trying to like really just try to. The dream was like leave the job, play the music, but you know, try to get my ducks in a row so that I can do it and like actually not just like sink as soon as I go out. Because I knew financially it was going to be almost impossible to just leave a job and just start making cash as a musician, because it's not realistic.
Like even with I'm sorry, I get so excited.
No, you're fine.
To kind of touch upon like so when you started to do the bar gig thing, which is a whole different mindset, right? You're doing these 3-hour sets and you got to learn all these different covers, and like even if you do one of those every night of the week, which no one would hire you if you do one of those every night of the week, because your draw is going to be like what?
Right.
But like even that mindset and taking that step and learning all that had to be kind of a head fuck going from like this solo full band like original type thing.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I never really did the cover thing.
Yeah.
And I would get the bar gigs.
Oh,
but
shit, I see.
It was always 70% original music.
Nice.
The 30% would usually be tunes that I just knew and loved. But I don't know, I would say it's almost a fault of mine in some respect, because you can make a lot more money by pleasing the people and playing songs they know. But I don't know. I just never got into music for that reason. And I was just, I guess, a little stubborn about it. So I tried to keep it really to more of like the original thing.
Yeah.
So I was able to find, you know, certain bars that would hire me. And as long as people would come through the door, they would keep me keep me on. But then the winter months would come and might slow down a little bit, and it's like, oh, you're done. Next spot, you know. So that happened often.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I guess with music that like being a musician, you kind of learn to be in that flux always because of
Yes.
that. Like
Yeah.
you're always a temporary commodity. You're never really part of the staff. You know what I mean? Like, and I think in it is isolating as it is, it's kind of like a healthy mentality too for other things. It keeps
Yeah.
you always. But anyway, you were about to. I cut you into like you were saying it's not feasible to do music full time, and then I was like bar gigs. Like, so I'm sorry for cutting into your thought, but do you
No.
remember where you were going with that?
You didn't at all. I didn't at the time think that it was going to be like, okay, I'm just going to leave my job and just make money as a musician. Cause I was doing okay. I would have gigs on the weekend and we would get paid, but it was never anything crazy that we're like, oh, we're doing really well. We're going to the moon with this. So the idea was to kind of like nest egg something up that would seem like, okay, if I had a couple of years to really give it a shot, how much money would I need? And how much money could I make with, the first 2 years probably being a wash where you'd be lucky if you just break even on the road. So that's kind of what I did. I saved up some money, and by the time I was like 28 or so, I had talked to my friends long enough saying, man, I just want to do music full time. I think I had probably been saying it for 5 years straight. They were probably sick of hearing me say it. And eventually I just finally did it. I'm so happy that I did when I did, because I had 8 years of no worries about it, because it just kind of eventually started to work out, and then the quarantine happened. But I feel like now it's weird. It's like this transition time. It's like, can I keep going, or what's going to happen?
Right. Yeah, I feel everyone's in that spot, and they're trying to figure out how to make it work, and it kind of goes back to that, like, the band just left. Now what do we do?
Yeah,
like, everyone's in this weird headspace of trying to figure out how to maintain the thing or move past it. But I was gonna say, like, lost my train of thought. Bouncing back to it, like in between, like all this, right? So those 8 years had to be like, or 5 years of saying you wanted to do it, like that's developing all those little things. You may be like, my singing voice I don't like, or my bar sets I need to fine tune, and like, how do I book gigs? You're learning all that while you're like with that mentality of wanting to do it full time, and like it takes time to do any endeavor like this full time. If you're an artist and you want to own a gallery, or if you're a baker and you want to own a bakery, whatever it is, or if you want to be a crazy guitar guy that goes state to state trying to make friends, like, you know what I mean? Like, I totally understand like the process of it and the unsurety, because at least a baker, someone's gonna need a baked stuff, and like they're gonna come there at one point. Like, when you're a moving entity and like there's no guarantee of anything, and just even like the one stationary gig you had, those aren't guaranteed. So to make that jump is such a big deal, and I'm super glad you did, and like super glad you're happy with it. And I think by that point you would have had all those skills ready to do it.
There was still a lot. I wish I could say I did. I had been working as like my own booking guy for a long time at that point, right? And like you said, I was learning certain skills, so I knew how to book a gig at that point,
which is hard.
Kind
so
of
hard. And there's no right or wrong way, because who knows? Maybe the Beachland booking guy likes emails with the proper font, and you're like, well, how the fuck would I know? Like,
right. So I like the first real tour.
Yeah.
So the only thing I had going for me was when I left my job, I had a 2-week tour planned, like immediately after I left. So it was like me going down to Alabama and back from Jersey.
Gotcha.
And it was going to be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And the drives were insane. It was like 8 hours a day. And then it was 10 hours. And like I was going by myself.
Right. No.
With all my gear. And I had a friend who I was kind of like just paying like $10 an hour to send out emails
Nice.
to like all these places, right?
Right.
And you'd send out 100 and maybe get
Two back.
2 replies, right? and like sometimes those 2 replies were just no, we're not interested.
Right.
Other times it would be like, yeah, we'll feed you and give you $50. And then once in a while you'd find one that's like, oh man, they're gonna give us 150. Wow, like
Okay.
holy shit,
Yeah.
that's gas money.
Yeah.
But so that first 2-week tour was like, this is crazy. I got to drive 8 hours to get to Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then the second day was going to Birmingham, Alabama, 10 hours.
Fuck.
And man, it was brutal.
Yeah.
And I learned very quickly that my limits on the road was pretty much like a 4 or 5 hour drive was the sweet spot.
That's a solid limit because you start to
Yeah.
nod off and there's not enough coffee podcasts or records you haven't heard that are going to keep you awake through that shit.
Exactly. And then, at the end of the drive, you got to play.
Right. Yeah, that too.
So-
And then it's like, hey, by the way, you got to be entertaining now.
Yeah.
To-
Set up, breakdown, all that. So, you kind of learn your pace pretty quickly, but still every once in a while you find yourself just taking a shitty drive and a shitty gig just because it was the only opportunity available within what you were able to book,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning when you had no reputation of being on the road and stuff like that. It was harder to get gigs that way.
Definitely. It's so hard to get someone. Once you meet somebody, your chances of like getting that yes or like, you know what, how about talk to Tom or whatever, like
Right.
it becomes so much more likely than when you're just like first trying to do it.
100%.
What was it so after this first tour, when you make it back, when did you start, like, you opened for John Butler, when did gigs like that start pouring in? And also
that was very late, like
Okay.
within the last 3 years, super late.
Gotcha.
All those good
All those sick
all the
gigs.
good things. Yeah.
So after the first tour, how long did you wait to do the second then? Like, when did you just keep at it and keep trying to figure it out?
I got back from that, and then I kind of would do things like at that point, me and my girlfriend were gonna go to Ireland,
That's cool.
and that was gonna be
Yeah.
for just a proper vacation, like after I had left the job and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it's kind of like, hey, we go on this vacation, and then I'll try to like get a couple gigs too.
Right. Oh, no.
And that was a little bit of a mentality for that. And
Yeah.
it's good and bad. I don't really suggest it. I do suggest people are able to disconnect from work and just go on vacation. I've always had a problem doing that. I might be a little bit of a workaholic.
I relate to that because, like,
Yeah.
I was just talking to someone about it. I'm like, I don't really see the reason to go somewhere unless I have a gig. And then,
Right.
then when I get to Utah, I want to have the gig later on. I want to find the coffee shop, the record store, and meet everyone who I'm there to meet. Like,
Yeah.
but I need that like incentive of the gig. Like,
I know.
it's such a weird. Like, do you think that kind of developed because it all was put on you? Like, and then
I guess.
right? Or I don't know.
I don't know. Like I'm trying to figure it out. I've been thinking about it a lot lately because
Yeah.
I've had a lot of time to think, You kind of you put yourself on the hamster wheel.
Right.
And you just want to, I don't know, you want to like take every opportunity you can get or make every opportunity you can for
Right.
yourself as an artist. You never know when that gig could happen that might change things for you.
Right. And I guess it's that and then if you get a little bite, it keeps you going and just makes you more manic. At least myself, I'm talking about myself here. I get super manic about any type of like, I get any opportunity is a dopamine spike. I'm like, oh, sick. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, we can play. Like,
I know. I'm trying to manage it, and it's kind of refreshing to hear and just have this conversation that I'm not alone.
likewise. And
I know many artists struggle with this.
And I think it's primarily because it's on you. I mean, you made this decision to do this rad lifestyle, and like, it's just, and like, I don't know, it's so taxing because it is all of it, and it is all on one person, and like anything can be nothing and everything at the same time. So you got to treat it like it is, and like,
Yeah.
It's just a complete mindfuck. But it's almost the question of living the work or working to live. And when you do
Yes.
something like this, it's such a fine line, right? Because you define yourself by like being a musician and being expressive and creative, but at the same time, like chilling out with some cats is cool too. You know what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
and it's finding that weird okay, which end of the side are you on, and like how to manage that. Which I don't got a good answer. I'm still trying to figure it out. And it sounds like you are too.
I'm in the same boat. I find that I just love to work on this stuff, and
Right.
sometimes I get like upset about it. I'm like, man, why can't I just chill out, and relax, and not take this so seriously?
Yeah.
I wanna just chill, but I'd feel better moving that amp right now. And
I
like,
totally relate to that.
it's like this crazy energy that's in you, and you're just like, I got to do something with it.
Right. And then it results in like crazy projects or crazy gigs. But anyway, so let's jump back. You're in Ireland. Do you book any gigs in Ireland?
I did. I booked
Nice.
2.
Yeah, and how'd they go?
They were awesome.
Sick.
They were super awesome. There was one. It was a while ago, man. But it was in Clonakilty, and
Yeah.
it was a place called the Barras, and it was such a fucking epic, historical little pub that had amazing visitors over the years. It had like Neil Young
Shit.
pictures, and like there was major rock stars that would pop in there, and just like they would do quick sets and just leave. Like
Fuck. Cool.
it was awesome.
Yeah.
And then there was this place called Monroe's in Galway, and that was like a surprisingly awesome show. I don't really know what kind of night it was, but it was, for some reason, there were just people at this proper like music club venue, and I was just the opener, and it was great. It was like I'm playing in Ireland, and people are like
Into it.
once you go to Europe, like there's a different appreciation and attentiveness to music is what I noticed.
Yeah. Do you think,
they
sorry. Keep going. No,
they
keep
just seem to when someone is there performing, they tend to be quieter
Hmm.
than Americans. That's just what I noticed. But what were we going to ask?
I was gonna say, do you think like post-pandemic you're gonna see some of that mentality? Like, have you noticed that with some of these gigs that have opened up? Like, people are like actually caring a little bit more, or is it about the same?
I noticed one situation that was really pretty magical, where
Yeah.
it was over the summer, and I was opening for this Talking Heads tribute band in like
Okay.
someone's backyard,
Sweet.
and they they're called Start Making Sense, and
That's awesome.
it was like they had signs up that just said no social media.
I like how
And-
you described it as a situation. Okay.
And I mean, people were elated
Yeah.
for live music
Sick.
in person. Like, it was really something special, because at that point it had been 4 months since anyone was really allowed to do it,
Yeah.
and that felt great. You know, I
bet.
don't know that would just continue to happen, just because I know how bars are, and I know how people are when they're in bars. Like,
Right.
they like to talk. Like, they go to talk most of the time.
Exactly. They're not there for you when you're doing the bar gig. You just happen to be there.
Right.
And you're there for them when they need to like hear you do like some song you don't know how they play, and then they try to put their phone there in your face and like it goes like this. Yeah, it just goes like this, and you're like, it doesn't mean I know it, dog. All right. But that's the fucking worst. But so did like playing in Europe open up to like Southeast Asia? Like that gig sounded fucking awesome, and I think that's the video on your site with all the kids hopping up on the stage and shit.
Yeah,
that was like
that was amazing.
right. That's the coolest video. I was like, oh, this is so epic.
So that happened because of just playing at my like local haunt, which is John and Peters in New Hope, Pennsylvania. I don't know if you're
Okay.
familiar with that venue.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you about it because you would do the jams with the Dean Ween guys there, right? Is that the
Yeah.
first place you saw Moist Boys?
Yes.
Okay, and that's okay. So why don't you kind of explain that situation with the Moist Boys? I can't say it without.
Yeah.
So when you first saw them, like, what was that like?
Well, I'll kind of give you a little info about John and Peters because it does kind of tie back to like my entire history, really. Because
Okay, go.
it was like local enough to New Jersey. It's only just across the river there.
Yeah,
It's just like an hour drive from my home base. But it was like 2009. I think I just booked like it was like one of those things. I knew a guy that could get me in there as like an opener on a Saturday afternoon, and then eventually the bar staff they liked what was going like my set, and then I was able to get in there on the weekends, and so it was just a cool place to play. You could set up, and it was just one of those places where you literally felt like you could do whatever you wanted. You do your original stuff, and you could you could jam on it and just take it out there, and people it's a rock bar, man. It's just a place where people, they have just a huge artistic community there. It's a huge gay population there, which always adds into it. It's the same with Asbury Park.
Yeah.
I mean, it's common. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And the people would just come there. They would just hang out, get drunk, and get rowdy and listen to your tunes. They would support it. So it always became a spot where it's like, I play here at least once every couple months. Like, that's just a given. And so that was like one of those gigs I had quitting the job. I was like, I'll play John and Peters religiously, right?
Nice.
And then eventually it turned into just once in a while, like, Dean Ween would be hanging out at the bar because like Ween was on hiatus, and there was just like all kinds of like musical community was happening there. The Invitational started. Well, has been going on for a long time, but eventually I got invited to do this Invitational Wednesday night jam, which was like kind of the Dean Ween group and other guest players. But that was the bar that I had just met like a friend through. He came to one of my shows, became a fan, and then became a friend. And then his father owned a company that wanted to go to Laos to do this fundraiser for unexploded bombs. And that was how the Laos thing happened. So it all really ties back to John and Peters.
That's sick. The message behind the show and the show itself, like the videos you have on your site are so awesome, or video that's on your site.
Yeah.
Like what an experience. Like how is that compared to like as far as crowd interaction? I mean, they're bombing the stage, so it was definitely appreciated, but like that was in that one song, but like how was like their reaction to live music compared to like in Ireland and here in Europe?
That was pretty special because there's a language barrier, right?
Right.
I mean, I have no fucking clue what they're saying at all. I mean,
I think they like it. I don't know.
It's just such an amazing medium. Music is just, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's the language that can speak to anybody. So, being able to play and see any kind of reaction was like, man, this is just, it just feels like nothing, I don't know, nothing else could feel like this. So their reaction over there, it was definitely more of, it was all like benefit work, right? So every day we'd wake up, we went to this place called the Cope Center, which was, we were going to village, like we were going to a place where they were dealing with kids that were coming out of villages where they were getting their limbs blown off from unexploded bombs that were dropped during Vietnam,
Yeah.
And so we met this guy named Pong, who he had been disabled by a bomb. He lost both of his hands and his eyesight. So but he had a deep love for breakdancing.
Yeah.
And so he was the inspiration for this company, Aqua Survey, to throw these benefit concerts. And the son of Aqua Survey's president, was at John and Peters, and he saw me, and then I became the guy to go play these concerts for Pong.
That's awesome.
So it's a hard kind of line to follow. It's a hard story to tell, but that's what happened.
Right.
And so the first night getting there was I was going to go.
That's awesome, but I mean the opportunity is awesome.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah, just to clarify.
Yeah. So the first night was going to meet Pong and just kind of like play acoustically and get to know each other, meet each other. And then the second day was going to the venue and figuring out logistics of as long as the PA was set up right. And
right.
All the, making sure your wires work with their wires, your power's working with their power, right?
Outlets would be a thing.
And then he had his breakdancing group they were performing in the midst. There was like 3 or 4 Lao performers, and then I was performing as well. And then they had these breakdancing performances. And so like the last song for the encore, they just bombed the stage, man. They just came up, and it was really something special. So that kind of experience, and because honestly, like that was 2013, right? And I had been touring for 2 years, really struggling. Breaking even was my best that I would do on the road, and I was going to call it quits right around then because I was just not seeing the progress I wanted to see. It had been 2 years. I thought, hey, I might have seen something by now, but then I got that call. I was like, do you want to go to Laos? and I was at my cousin's house in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'll never forget, like, because I was on the road, and I was just like, couch surfing on her couch.
Yeah.
And I got that call, and I was like, yeah, I'm going.
That's awesome.
Yes, I want to go, of course. And it became like kind of a transformative trip because after that, it's like, if this could happen, then anything could happen, and I should stick with it.
Right. Perseverance will equal success, and it's hard when you're in the midst of it, and you're really grinding it out and not seeing anything change. And it sucks because, like, with music, you're a name into like a brand of all these things, and you're developing all this shit, and it's all boring, not creative, and not cool. But like, it takes forever for it to be a thing that people recognize, and like, and you need that thing to get through it. So I think that is why you're a workaholic, is because that gig was way too cool, and like, or at least why you have tendencies, because I can relate to cool gigs being like, yep, we can do this. This one decent gig is worth 400 of the shitty gigs. We're going.
Exactly, man.
So how many nights were you there? How many gigs did you actually play?
So it was a 10-day trip.
10-day trip,
and their plan was to have at least 2 shows, and one show was going to be the one that you saw there on the video, and the other one was even more special, and that really wasn't like publicized because it was so intimate. It was we went to a women's disabled center in a small village, and they had never experienced a concert.
Wow.
So it was just acoustic music for some very, very poor disabled women in this little community center that they have. They make these like handmade different things out of newspaper, like ornaments or purses, little things that they could sell.
Yeah.
This like community center was the way for them to survive, and we were going there as a day just to give them a performance, and so I was the guy to perform. And they think that if there's an American person coming to this place, he must be famous.
Right.
And I wasn't at all, and still I'm not. But the way they treat you was like, you're going to sign an autograph for this person because they think that you are the best, that this is the first time they've ever heard anything like this. So,
that's incredible.
It was just me and an acoustic guitar, no electricity.
Yeah.
And it was just like such a special moment. It was like immediately tears to my
Right.
eyes of like I was hoping I could get through the song,
Right. Oh,
and
man.
that was like the best moment of the trip. Other than that, after that experience, I also had, knowing that I was going to be there for 10 days and they only wanted like 2 or 3 shows. Of course, being the opportunist that I am, I wanted to look for other opportunities.
Right.
And I hopped on a plane and went to Cambodia
Whoa.
by myself
Yeah.
for 2 days.
And how'd that go?
And I played a show at a place called the Equinox.
Okay.
And it was like a friend of mine who is a radio guy on it's Homegrown Radio, NJ is their tag.
Yeah.
But he had a friend who moved out to Cambodia and just was living there. And so he knew a guy that owned the bar and
Damn.
was able to hook me
Yeah.
up with him and get me the gig. So I was like, if there's a gig in Cambodia and I'm in Laos and I don't go, then I'm the worst person ever. Like I have to take
Right.
this opportunity.
Definitely.
So I did it, and I went to get on the flight from Laos to Cambodia, and it was canceled.
Hmm.
And so they were going to try to put me on this crazy overnight layover
Yeah.
where they were going to fly me. I was going to be like 3-4 hours delayed, and then they were going to fly me to like Korea
Huh?
and then fly me to Cambodia. And I
Okay.
was like, can I just take a flight tomorrow morning?
Right.
And then they were like, yes. I was like, okay, that's fine. So the day of the show, I actually flew into Cambodia and took a tuk-tuk to this hotel room. The tuk-tuk's like a $7 taxi ride.
Yeah.
It's like in the back of a like motorcycle basket, right?
Yeah.
And then I just went with my guitar and my carry-on bag and went to this hotel, and then had the gig that night, and then went out with the bar owner that night, and then the next morning did some sightseeing, and then hopped on a plane and went back to Laos. So it was just like a whirlwind of 2
Damn.
days.
Yeah, that's got to be like culture shock, a head fuck, just because like now you're playing a bar in Cambodia. Where do I
Yeah.
play? How do I hit home? I don't know that Dead Kennedy song. I don't think they would enjoy that. And it's just acoustic, right? Not even like looping or anything. No.
No, I had
Okay,
like
cool.
I had figured out a way to like I minimize the gear so that I just take the essentials. So I have like a loop pedal, a little distortion,
Right.
wah whatever I needed to just
Okay, cool.
kind of get the point across of my show.
Yeah,
And they were pretty good about like backline and stuff there. So they would
nice.
ask you what you needed, and they would have it all set up and ready for you when you got out there because they knew the deal. Like you were already going to be jet lagged
Yeah.
by
A lot.
a pretty significant amount. Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
They were good
Cool,
about it.
man. How cool. Are you hip to Henry Rollins and his
Oh,
spoken
yeah,
word?
man.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you can't be doing sick shit like this and not have like heard that and got that bug in your ear. What was it?
Well, I mean, it's crazy that you bring him up, and not to be like a name dropper, but Sim Kane is the original
your
drummer
record.
from Rollins Band. He's on the record.
I know. It's so fucking
And
awesome.
So yeah, obviously, I mean, it's like a tremendous fucking honor to have any kind of tie to that world.
Right? Oh man, like I'm a super big Rollins fan of his spoken word and his
nice.
music, and like
Yeah.
when I hear you tell stories like this, I get so envious because I'm like, oh, I want to travel and do that. That's so fucking cool, and like getting that Rollins bug in my brain, like in high school, has always made me like the weird gig opportunist, or put me in that headset. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I will take the hard way. You know, that should be
Yes.
fine. And like.
Right.
But how was it like playing with him? Because he plays, Sim plays with Dean Ween, right? Is that how you
Right.
guys met?
Yeah, that's how we met on those tours, and he's just, first of all, I mean, just a phenomenal drummer. I told Sim, I'm like, I like listening to you sound check, and that was just him like hitting the drum, just to
Yeah,
kick.
yeah. Cool.
All right, like kick, Tom, like just hearing him. I'm telling you, man, he just has a thing. He's there with the moment, and I knew like from those tours, and I was so like taken back that he was into what I was doing as the opener. And through my latest album, and we kind of kept in touch, and I was just like, if there's an opportunity to play with Sim, I would just love that. So I called him up, and he agreed to come by, and he cut a couple tracks with me.
Sick. And that's on a Lifetime Motel. A Lifetime Ago Motel. I forgot.
Yes.
We haven't said that yet.
Oh, yeah.
But
I totally forgot that there's even a new record coming out.
yeah, that's why we're here. But
Nice, man.
we'll put a pin in that because I got questions on the album itself because Howard sent me the cut. But so like touring with him and like when kind of like you're playing all this stuff by yourself at one point when it's out, and I imagine you're writing it the same way. So when you include like a drummer into what you do, like the rhythm's there, how does he like run with it or expand upon it without doing too much? You know what I mean?
Right. So I kind of take a different approach to each song when it comes to like working on, and I know exactly what you're saying. Like if there's already kind of a kick, a hi-hat or snare vibe already going on, then what does a drummer do? So with the studio, I'll approach every song a little differently. So I might not necessarily record it in the one-man band format, I might just start with a guitar part and a scratch vocal or something just to get the vibe. Or with the tracks that I did with Sim, I just cut those couple songs. We just did it live together in the room.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not necessarily just like giving him a track that I've already played. I wanted that feeling of playing, with him.
Sick.
And so that was kind of, and I tried to pick songs that I thought would be more appropriate for a full band expansion kind of thing, as opposed to like a loop kind of feel.
Gotcha. I guess that kind of goes back to what we were talking about when learning how to accept click tracks and like digital stuff to make the song the best it can be. Is when you're recording the record, it's not how am I going to do this live? It's like how can I make this the absolute best form of my expression?
Right.
That's it.
100%. Like I always look at. I'm not too keen on click tracks for the most part because I don't want it to have that computerized feel.
Right.
But at the same time, I will go back and I will fix some imperfections if it's like a really good take, but there's just like 2 hits that are out of the way or something. I'll fix them.
Well, for sure. Yeah, and like that's sculpting the chipping away what's not needed and putting the right thing that is. You know what I mean? Like it's not digitally masking like or just garbage. You know what I mean? It's all there. It's just fine tuning it.
Yeah, I mean, and I tried to like just make each song a little bit different from the last, as opposed to like, oh well, we have this format, we're going to approach every song the same way. Yeah. With the way I work, it's always kind of cut up with time. Like I'll have a session here, a session there. Gotcha. And half the time the studio's been reorganized or something's different because they're recording some other project. So it just kind of ends up being that way. I'm kind of okay with that though, because I like when each song has a little bit of a different approach.
Okay, that makes sense. Like, I feel like with your music and as well as like your performance, like your influences are on your sleeve, but you're wearing like a baseball tee. Like they're long. Yeah, I mean, like you have a ton of different influences, and they come out like in a pure way, which is you. And I think it's important to do that, not to try to hide, your influences and embrace them. But what are some tunes like Sim played on?
He played on "Waiting for the Kill" and "A Lifetime Ago," which is I think the 8th and 9th track on the record. Yep. And
title of the record.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny because I was gonna call the record "A Lifetime Ago," and then it ended up being called "Lifetime Ago Motel." It's like, I don't know, a little play on the whatever. It's slightly different, but
Like almost like it's a temporary state. Like
exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Right.
Okay, cool. I was wondering
so-
that. Sorry to keep harping on that.
No,
one.
go
But
ahead,
that's
man.
that's a cool concept because like I don't know the idea of like because you hit some heavy stuff on this record and it bounces and I guess I will unpin the record. Let's talk about this now. You hit some heavy stuff on it and it sounds like whatever was behind it. There's a lot of shit going on and if it's throughout a bunch of years or a few years, right? These songs are coming together. I imagine. Living the manic life that you do in a good way, that there's going to be all these things, and that's why the album bounces around, but it hits heavy in a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously like a divorce record. I was going through
Yeah.
Yeah,
when did you get married? Like, all this madness.
yeah. So I got married in 2016.
Okay.
Yes, 2016. And this is why the album is called Lifetime Ago Motel.
Right.
Because so much has changed since then, including my marriage status. Like,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. We were together for 10 years before I had left to become a full-time musician.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, you just don't know what it's going to be like until you're in it, right?
Right.
And so I think I had gone pretty far down the rabbit hole of the full-time musician thing. And as it started to get busier, it just becomes more taxing.
Right.
On any kind of personal relationship and just whatever wants and desires, your significant other may have or I, may have had that it just ultimately didn't work out. And
Yeah.
so it was like right before pretty much like Dean Ween Group tour stuff happened. Like I had just finished the last record.
Yeah.
And that was like a pretty significant time for me musically, but also a pretty traumatic time for me personally. And I was kind of going through this really like super high of, accomplishing a few musical things that I wanted to do. But then at the same time, you take a step back and you go, man, like there was some major sacrifices there too. Yeah. And so, I mean, ultimately I just can't, I'm not the type of artist that can take the personal side out of it too well. I'm not that good at hiding that. I really look up to some of the artists that are more like storytellers and are able to separate themselves from the music. But at the end of the day, for me, it almost becomes like, therapy or kind of like cathartic in a way. Yeah. So a lot of this album was done, with just this kind of big elephant in the room of something I had to sing about and something I had to talk my way through and something I had to, so it had to come through. And the big question about the approach of it was like, well, can I do this without making a total bummer of an album? Like I don't want to make something that's just unlistenable because it's so so
put you in that mood,
right?
Yeah.
So I think with any kind of huge life tornado that happens, it's not just one feeling, right? It's not just, oh, you're depressed or you're sad or you're happy because, well, this is better because this is not there anymore. Like certain things are good and bad. And then there's, like I think each song is kind of illustrating a different mood of what it is, to go through these kind of events.
Definitely. And like you're saying, it's not like just one harped, like this is like, what's the guy, an Elliott Smith album where it's just one mood and you know what that mood is. It kind of follows your musical, like influences. It bounces to a bunch of different styles. And like, it's cool to hear that it's conveying all these different emotions around one thing. because we're people, we're multifaceted. We have all these different things for even just deciding what we want for dinner. There's a lot of emotion into that. And like, so in this record, and like, it definitely bounces in that way. Like, you got the song IDGAF, which is fucking rad. And like, it's definitely, you bummed out, but it's a fun way to be bummed out.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
And, you know, and that was why I was happy I gave the album some time,
Right.
because eventually I was able to like set up in the studio, and that's like, you're practically listening to a demo on that one. But
Yeah, it sounded looped, but I feel like that's part of
Yes.
how you would do it live, and like that's
Yeah.
part of the you experience.
yes, and for me that was just a fun track, like, and I wanted there to be some like definite tracks that's just like they're fun.
Right.
It's maybe got an attitude of like, you know, I don't give a fuck anymore. I just don't give a fuck. And I think everyone gets to that point where
100%.
you might have just become so like immersed in your own bad situation that one day you wake up and you go, you know what? I don't give a fuck.
Right.
And-
That's a good thing to get to too.
Right. You know, so I was happy that I gave it time. I feel like there a little more pressure for artists to be releasing music more at a faster pace, but yet there's also a bigger workload on them because they are doing so many
Yeah.
other things that they didn't
Have to
do
before.
historically.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I was
Right,
talking to Chris Butler. He was
Uh-huh.
are you familiar with him? He did some stuff in the Hoboken area with like the bongos,
Yeah.
and he was in the Waitresses in the
Yeah.
Tin Huey Cleveland group. But he was we were talking about it, and he was saying that like back in the day when they got the record deal, they didn't worry about press. The company put that out. You know what I mean? They just
Yeah.
did their thing, and it ultimately kind of did them over. Like the record company paid them to not make their next record at one point.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like it ultimately did them over because they didn't invest in that. So it's kind of cool that you have all this extra shit, but it also sucks because, like you're saying, the expectation to keep you turning out shit, which is
Yeah.
why the singles thing is like why people are doing it, even though it's lame.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. But yeah, kind of like, but on this record, there's a couple tunes that really hit me as like Neil Young inspired, just where
Awesome.
your voice sits, and like,
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear. That's I think this one song you said your dad knew was a Neil Young tune.
Yes. Yeah.
So that influence is in there. I really like Moonchild.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's
That's a
kind of
really
the
cool tune.
trancey kind of
Yeah.
tune.
Well, it sounds like that's that one you could pull off live super easy with the one kick drum and shit. No, not super easy, but you know what I mean. Like I can kind of hear maybe where that came into. But this is a really cool collection of tunes, and like it's gonna be rad when you put it out, which is coming out, right?
Thank you for listening to it. Yes, it is coming out, and March 5th is going to be the first single,
Okay.
and then April 2nd is the proper
Whole thing.
release date.
Nice.
So yeah, luckily, like with the campaign and people chipping in for the red vinyl, those guys have like the digital download already. So
Yeah.
it's been cool to get a little feedback from like some core fans and stuff.
Awesome. Well, it's a fucking
So-
banger of an album. And I did the whole spiel. Like usually when I do these, I try to do as much research as I can. On
I really appreciate that, man. That means a lot. I mean, not everybody does that.
well, thanks. And you were fun to research. By the way, I got more questions. I'm not done. I just wanted to, before we move on from the album, give it the right plug that it needs to have.
Thank you.
But yeah, and I kind of did the whole spiel and went down on everything on the Spotify and whatnot. And like, I don't know. So it's fucking rad record, and anyone who's going to dig into it, anyone who's a fan of you is going to dig it. And like, it's really cool to come out of like, all this negative shit with such a like cool posy product. And
Right.
well, I kind of wanted to ask you about it because I've kind of I relate to the always hustling, the saying yes to everything, that mentality, like so much so, like it's probably bad. We're probably enabling each other.
Yeah, I know,
But
right?
most of my relationships panned out the same way. You know what I mean? Where like it's like, oh, you're always busy. I'm like, yeah, but it's kind of what I told you would happen into this. And,
Yes.
like now I'm sad, and like it never got to the point where it was as serious of a like I never had a 10-year relationship. but I've had like 3-year relationships. You know what I mean? And like they get to a point where they're like, "Why'd you say yes to that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's the gig," and like
Yeah.
And like,
I know.
granted, there's more into it. It's not just me being busy. You know what I mean? That,
Absolutely.
but just I kind of want to wrap your brain or wrap maybe where you're coming from with it. But when you have super sick shit happen, like going on tour with the Dean Ween group and being like this, like constant like amount of like just positive shit happening and always being excited about shit. Like I hung out with the guy I played with, Henry Rollins, and like, you're calling her and she's like, "Yeah, when are you gonna be home?" You know what I mean? Just like like the duality of all this exciting shit, and at the same time this like bummer shit. Like how do you maintain, my dude? Like how do I get through this? This is a personal crash.
Well, I mean, that's a great question, and I don't know that I have the answer. I think that's a lot of the reason why musicians end up either with like another musician or
Right.
someone in the arts. Because of that reason, there's a little more of an understanding of that's just like that's
makeup,
just the
yeah.
work, the makeup of the work life.
Right.
You can understand it, and then you can give that person the space that you know they need, and then you can also trust that they would be responsible with whatever circumstances are coming up.
Right.
Because it's easy, I think, when if your partner is on the road, and if I put myself in her shoes,
Right.
then I could see getting just nervous, worried, maybe some insecurities of feeling like, oh, well, what if something happens tonight? What if tonight's that night? And
what if it goes too well? Like
right. And I think when you actually do it and you do like the little backstage life that people think is so glamorous.
Yeah.
You see, once you see it a few times, you kind of go, oh, all right, well, this kind of sucks.
There's not even pizza. Like this is cool. All right.
Yeah. So I think when like the other person like fully understands that and they understand a little more of the struggle, that they might celebrate some of the high moments with you a little bit more, just because they know, because they've actually had to go through the amount of time of the struggle. I think it's hard to get perspective on something when you've never done it or never had to experience it, like waiting around to play or waiting after a gig to break down your shit and get on the road. Like the amount of work that goes in that, you're actually just kind of focused on getting to the show, setting up, getting a bite to eat, playing, breaking down, hopefully connecting with a few fans. And that's really what gives you the fulfillment, hopefully selling some merch and feeling good at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then that's really like that's it. Right.
Yeah.
And so the other stuff, like all the bullshit rock star cliche stuff, it was never my bag. I was never into that.
And it doesn't happen. Right. It doesn't happen.
Well, it didn't happen for me. Okay.
Right. Okay. And let's open up the door for everyone else in the world. I can say I've never experienced that cool shit, nor do I care for it. I relate with what you're saying 100%. And like,
I don't think I'm even like psychologically built the right way to take advantage of those kind of situations if it was thrown in front of my lap. Right. So that's kind of the fine line, I think, of understanding a relationship with someone who's in the creative field. And I think it's really hard on any partner to anybody who's out on the road all the time. It's not necessarily fair either.
Yeah.
And, you have to kind of understand that.
Right.
But, quarantine puts that in perspective in a whole nother way. Where you're home, and then you realize that then there's home life, and then there's dealing with some of the just mundane, normal, everyday things, dishes and food and laundry. I mean, it's just a very different different kind of struggle, right?
Yeah,
Gotta
it's-
keep that exciting.
right,
in a
the
relationship.
mundanity of that, and like I think how you escape that is with who you're with, and like
Yeah.
seeing the like when you're on the other end, so you're coasting by yourself for so long doing the day-to-day thing, and like someone out there is I don't know, it makes sense because like, or even just the idea that your partner is doing this thing that brings them that much fulfillment and maybe you're not, you know what I mean, like, and trying to find what that is so you can do that too. And then when someone else is already self-established and someone else isn't established, like mentally and personally with what their endeavors are in life, there's that almost feeling shitty about it. I can't think of the word. Jealousy, like
Yeah.
almost jealous in a way that, but not to the point of jealousy. Jealousy is a little too strong. Just kind of like a little self-deprecation because you haven't found that thing yet, and like. Someone like you or someone like myself who is manic and like has found like if I keep pushing the string this way, some people like it, and I'm gonna keep
Yeah.
doing it. And
Absolutely.
it's that's in it. I really think that's a good perspective to take with it. And are you back in New Jersey now? Is that where you're at?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I'm in New Jersey. I just moved into an apartment in Hightstown, so I've been
Okay.
holing up there for a little
Shit,
while.
can't
My
make
studio
sound in
is
an
still-
apartment, man.
No, yeah, but I got the studio in Monroe, so I'm good.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we're good on that.
I got a couple other questions about a bounce topic, but I thought that was solid advice. So a couple road stories I've been wondering about. There was a time in Texas you got pulled over,
Oh yeah.
and like,
Wow, you did a deep dive, man. Nice.
and like, if you want to tell that story, like that's an amazing story.
Yeah, that was great. So I was on the road. It's actually with my ex-wife at the time, and
Yeah.
we were going from, I think it was Amarillo, and we might have been traveling to Amarillo that day. And I just typically like have a lead foot. It's a bad habit, and I'm trying to stop,
Right.
but it's a Jersey thing. I don't know. We have fucking issues here, and so I'm cruising. I was like doing 70 something in a 55, and the cop sees me naturally and pulls me over. And I mean, at this point, I'm a full-time musician.
Yeah.
I really did not have the money for
Right,
a
a ticket.
ticket. They are hefty, man. Like I've
Yeah.
gotten plenty of speeding tickets. They suck, especially out of state. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
600.
Fuck.
Sometimes you got to hire a lawyer just to like make sure you don't get points, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh man. So he comes to the window. I was really pleading with him, just saying, man, I'm a musician, and there's no good excuse for me speeding. I'm just trying to get to the next show down the road. And if there's anything you could do to give me a ticket, it would just make my day. And he walks back, and he kind of just takes my
Yeah.
my license and registration, and it didn't seem like he was having it.
Yeah.
And he's
Oh,
back
shit.
at the car for a long time,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, oh no, I am fucked.
Yeah.
Like this, I am getting like, not only am I getting a speeding ticket, but he's writing up like a reckless, or because I've had that happen too.
Oh no.
And he comes back and he goes, I'm gonna let you go this time, but
Sick.
I want to see the big red suitcase.
Oh, he's back there Googling your shit.
Yeah. So he actually went back and like checked out something, and he like saw it was like the big red suitcase tour. And I was like, man, you are the best, dude. Would you please take a picture with me? And like,
Yeah.
thank you for, not giving me a hard time. And I'm sorry I was driving so fast. And that was just like awesome moment.
That's awesome. And did you give him like a CD or some shit? Did he come to the show?
I don't think
Like, follow up?
he actually kind of said like, hey, you could take a picture and all that, but don't say anything about
Yeah.
this jurisdiction's police department, which I didn't obviously.
Yeah.
But, he was super cool about it. I don't think he wanted a CD. I might have offered him one. He didn't seem interested. He was just like, get out of here,
Yeah.
Stop speeding through my town.
Yeah. Or if you do, speed out. And like, yeah. That's sick.
Yeah.
Wow.
And honestly, it wasn't the first time I had been pulled over in Texas and let off. Like that was
Yeah.
like way back. It was before touring or anything. It was just a cross country trip, and another incident had happened. And Texas cop let me go. So I mean, very
Texas.
grateful to the Texas police at the
Thank
moment.
you very much.
Yeah.
They have to deal with a ton of speeders. Come on, what's
yeah.
there to get through desert? Like,
Right.
another tour question I had was in Chicago. Apparently, you lost a tooth somehow, and like it was a front tooth. And I have like this
Yeah.
weird fear of like I play a lot of harmonica and me getting
Yeah.
too into it and bashing out my own tooth somehow. And like,
Yeah.
so what happened?
Well, this was the cause of stale Chicago pizza.
Oh no! Oh no! That's even more horrifying.
Yeah.
It was-
But I had an incident when I was younger where I had chipped a tooth real bad playing
Yeah.
basketball.
yeah.
My front tooth, and it had gotten so it was such a bad chip that they had to carve it out and put a post in there and all that.
okay.
Not a post, but they had to do a cap.
Yeah.
And so I had this cap on there for years and never really thought much of it. And I should have probably just been more cautious with it from the
Right.
get-go, but I'm like chomping into this piece of pizza like after a late night show and I'm sleeping on someone's couch.
Yeah.
And I'm like taking a bite. I'm like, oh no,
You just-
like this one was extra crispy. And I'm like, oh no, man, this is my fucking tooth in there. And
Fuck.
so I spit the tooth out,
Yeah.
and I'm like, fuck, I still got like 5 more gigs on this run.
Fuck.
And
Yeah.
I was literally couch surfing. Have you heard of the website couchsurfing.org?
Oh yeah. No, I've done that
Yeah,
a few
so-
times, and as far as like
Yeah.
doing what you're doing, that's clutch. Especially if
Yes,
it's in Chicago in the winter or whatever. Like,
Yeah, and it was the winter.
so van life
we-
ain't cutting it.
No, van life was not cutting it at the time. So I was staying with this lovely woman, Karen, and she knew a dentist. She took
Oh, no
me
shit.
to the dentist the next morning. And he looked at it and he's like, you know what? You'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work on this today.
Okay.
I don't know that I had insurance that would have covered it anyway in Chicago. Luckily, I had insurance at home. I was able to get my tooth back in. But so he said, you'll be fine. You're not in any pain or anything. But, your next 5 shows, you're going to look a little funny. And so I just
Wrote it
grinned and bared it, and did the last 5. And that was like a 2-month tour, too. So that
Damn.
one I was lucky that it happened then. It was on the last week of it. So it was hysterical, man. It was just-
Well,
I have to play a few more banjo tunes on these sets.
Oh man, and that's awesome. Like that's cool that it was not okay. The whole thing is awful, but it's awesome that it didn't hurt or wasn't. Serious. It was a cap.
It wasn't that bad. I got back, and a dentist got me looking all right, and got a tooth
Nice.
in there. I'm always afraid of like the next thing that's going to happen to that tooth because I know the next thing's not going to be so fun.
Yeah,
but
fuck. Let's keep it that
I
way.
don't want to think about that. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know why the teeth thing freaks me out. Like I'm always afraid for my front choppers that they're gonna fall out.
Yeah.
And like I was like, oh shit, it's happened to them.
Yeah. Luckily, it wasn't the harmonica thing though.
Okay, yeah. Because do you play harmonica? You've got that on tracks.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is kind of a tie-in question because I wanted to dive in a little bit more. So for me, when I was before I was going into high school, I found the John Butler Trio, and that cracked my brain open in so many ways. I'm like, I can learn more than guitar. This is so cool how this guy does that. So ever since then, I've been working on banjo, lap steel, and I was working on harmonica before that, and like trying to incorporate it into all my bullshit, and like how was that fucking gig? That'd be cool. And like, what kind of got you going into the multiple instrument level, and then like including it in your solo sets? Like, because banjo is not an easy it is and it isn't. You know what I mean? As far as like playing the open tune stuff, it's a little more in that ballpark. But the finger picking thing's really what makes the rolls make banjo.
Absolutely. And it was something I always kind of thought banjo was just awesome. It's just an amazing sounding instrument. It adds so much to like classic Neil Young tracks. I like it in like the rock format a lot, even though it's primarily like a bluegrass instrument, and that's a whole nother monster. But I got the banjo it was like a Christmas thing, you know. It's like I think me and my dad both chipped in half to buy this banjo,
Nice.
and so I got it, and I always have like an interest in other instruments, and I think I almost look at it as a little bit of I don't know. It could be like I find that guys that get really successful are really, really good at one thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like it might
Right.
be shredding, or just they're the most amazing fingerstyle guitar player, or they're the best classical guitar player. But I seem to have interest in like, oh, well, maybe if I learn piano, or maybe if I learn this drum fill or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I love playing all different types of instruments, with guitar being obviously the heavyweight. You
Yeah.
know? But when I got the banjo, I liked it a lot because I picked up like an Earl Scruggs book, and
Oh, which one? Is it the
it's like the quintessential book, I think.
Scruggs and the 5 strings?
Yeah, that's it.
Or the 5-string banjo? Yeah, I got
Yeah,
that book
that's it.
too. And it
Yeah,
breaks it
and
down and got all the songs in the back and the
Yeah, I mean, it
techniques
shows
in
you
the
how to
front.
freaking build one if you want, you know?
Yeah. It tells you everything about it. It's
Yeah.
a silly informative book, like as far as banjo is concerned. Oh, that's so sick.
Yeah. So I just took it real slow with that book,
Right.
and just worked on the rolls, and
Right.
I was just so impressed by how it helped the guitar playing, because you have to get really, really good with your right hand in a different way than you do on guitar. It's just different focus, and that was kind of for me a little bit of the turning point. Like, oh man, this instrument is so much of it's just as challenging as the guitar, and I pumped the brakes on it a little bit. I only do a few tunes on it,
Yeah.
but I'd like to incorporate a little bit more, but I just I haven't been like practicing enough, I guess,
Gotcha.
or just taking it out enough.
It's hard to do the finger picking thing and the foot stomping thing. You know what I mean? Like, and like with the pickup system in a banjo, it's not.
Yeah.
You can't run it through dirt. You know, you can't do cool shit with it. It doesn't. It's not as cool as a guitar.
I put a Telecaster pickup on mine upside down so that it actually faces down on the strings. Like I built these
Interesting.
posts.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's pretty cool because you can run it through distortion and stuff, and it sounds pretty damn good.
I think that's what I'm gonna be doing. Like that's amazing. Like on
It's
the
pretty
top of the
cool.
banjo or like underneath the head.
It's on top of the banjo.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like I have like these two posts coming out,
Sick.
and they just kind of
Hold it.
turn it upside down so that and it sounds rad. I mean, it's really cool, but it's not like your typical banjo sound, right? It's
Right.
It's got a little more of a
Tin.
electric vibe to it,
Okay. Dope.
which like a real banjo player, like a bluegrass banjo player, would just roll his eyes and go, "This guy's crazy."
Pun
You know?
intended.
Right.
You'd backwards roll them.
Right.
Reverse roll. My bad.
Yeah.
But that's fucking sick. So with the John Butler thing, was that just a one night, like in Jersey or whatever? Was
Yeah.
that cool?
No, that was so that was at the Capitol Theater, and
Oh shit.
I didn't get to play the Capitol Theater stage. I got to play there's a Garcia's. It's a connected bar. It basically gets you into the Cap, right?
Gotcha.
So I got to play like kind of the opener spot of the Garcia stage.
Still, that's sick though.
Well, it was amazing because like the John Butler Trio fans get it. You know, they understood like where I was coming from, and like I got to see his sound check, and like he was doing all this cold loop shit, and his show was just fantastic that night.
Do you
So
remember who
that
it was with?
like,
Who was on the bill with him?
was it Love? No, that's a different show. I forget.
Because
I have to look back.
trying to think. Was it State Radio, 2018,
That might have been it.
or maybe I'm thinking 2011? That would have been like 2011.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that'd be way back then.
Because I did a alternative break tour with State Radio when they did it was like their nonprofit, and
Nice.
which is insane. So I was part of that team, and one run of it was with the John Butler Trio, and like,
Oh man.
so I was like living the fucking dream, hanging out with all the heroes and shit. And I was like, oh my god.
Oh man,
Except-
that's sweet.
You know, you couldn't meet, like the John Butler team was on their own thing, so you really didn't get to hang
Right.
out with them, but I would still try to. And I'm like, that would be so serendipical right now if that happened
Yeah.
to be one of the things and we're talking about it. Like,
Yeah. Oh my God.
but that's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. I didn't get to meet the team either.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly, like, he's got so much shit going on. He's freaking flying in from Australia to play these shows. So I can't imagine it's easy to like network with everybody and even know that there's an opener on another stage.
Right.
But it was like a huge honor just because, I mean, the Capitol Theater is just connected with just great music in general, and just to be on any stage within the whole proximity of it is good enough for me for now. You know, I would love to play the Capitol Theater proper, you know, but
one day, my friend, it
not
will
yet.
When the pandemic shifts. One final question. It's kind of completely off topic, but it might be. Do you guys, did Sim give you any sweet Henry Rollins stories, like some like crazy like road stories with those guys when you were touring with the Dean Ween?
I'm always like just in awe of the type of things that he'll say, like about them opening for the Chili Peppers.
Shit,
and I'm like, wait, okay, yeah, I forgot. Sorry, you fucking opened for the Chili Peppers. And like the Chili Peppers were huge Rollins fans.
Yeah.
So much that at one point in the career of the Chili Peppers, they were switching management, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And Rollins had been the support for one of these tours for a long time, and their Chili Peppers management was changing, and they, for some reason, didn't want Rollins to support Chili Peppers anymore on this upcoming run. And apparently, like, the Chili Peppers loved the Rollins band so much that they said to the management, they said, if Henry Rollins band is not supporting us, then you're not managing us anymore.
Oh, shit.
So, I mean, they had like a serious respect for them as a group. And like that little nugget of information was just like, fuck, I mean, you just open for fucking Chili Peppers. I mean, it's like insane to me.
That is, because Chili Peppers are one of those groups. I don't know, like that for me, like in high school, that was one of the groups. Like, that was
of course,
the band of bands. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And like,
I mean, they're like one of the last, you know,
rock
existing proper bands that stay together as like the four guys. You know, unfortunately, you know, tragically they lost their guitar player early on, but you know, Frusciante is pretty much the guy.
Yeah.
He's back now. But
yeah, that's
sick.
I
mean, it's crazy, man. Like that, just getting those little that's like a fun tidbit just to like hear that and be like, oh man, you've done some crazy ass shit.
And we're hanging out. What the fuck?
Yeah, right? What are you doing here, dude?
Why are you? That's awesome. Well, Keith, thank you so much for hanging out with me for these last like 2 hours. It's been a fucking
this
blast.
Was great, man. Thank you so much for like all the just great questions and all the research you did and listening to the record and all that. It means a lot.
Likewise, man. Thanks for checking out my stuff. Thanks for doing this. And yeah, man, I'll plug everything at the top. I'm a sign off here, but not hang up. So I'll see ya.
waiting for the kill. 'Cause I'm waiting for the kill. Here I am just waiting for the kill.